In this episode of the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast, I'm going to share strategies to overcome people pleasing so that you can authentically relate with others and powerfully steer your focus on what matters most to achieving the results under your control. If you haven't already, please follow the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast and leave a review. Thank you. I recently turned down a request that was socially, culturally, and even religiously taboo to do. And I didn't even explain myself too much, something I would have gone through great pains to do only a few years ago. Understand this: no matter how old or how senior you are in your field, too many of us leaders still suffer from people pleasing, whether it is socially or professionally. We say yes when we mean to say no, and we resent our engagement all the way from the beginning to the end. Over to how to overcome people pleasing. Strategy number 1: you need to have clarity on your vision, non negotiable values, goals, and priorities if you are to overcome people pleasing. Why is this number 1? It's because if you don't have clear, concise, and compelling reasons to invest your time, your energy, your finances, and your relationships on one thing rather than another, you are more likely to compromise and allow disruptions and distractions. So when you know what this time is meant to be used for, when you know you're maxing your mental, emotional capacity to deal with the thing, when you know you have allocated finances to another priority, and therefore you cannot send it elsewhere, you are more likely to then stand by the values, the priorities, the goals that you've set for yourself than if you don't have any, or you haven't grounded them in writing and really entrench them in your heart and your mind that this is what is important for me for now, whether it's for you alone, you and your family, you and your colleagues. But it is only when you can have clarity and certainty of vision, of values, goals, and priorities that you can then make a decision in the moment in favor of what you had planned in advance to pursue rather than what just comes up. I have an online course called a personal goal setting course. And on this course, I help people set goals they can actually achieve. And one of the first things that we do is to help you get clarity on vision and values so that when you set goals, you actually plan and prioritize their implementation no matter what else happens in life. And so if you're interested in going over a personal goal setting path that you will actually end up achieving the goal you set for yourself, I would highly recommend the personal goal setting course on our website. And the link to that is on this episode, modestamahiga.com/courses. The second strategy to overcoming people pleasing is checking on your priorities and schedule. Your prioritized values as a 360 leader are spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, relational, financial, leadership, impact, legacy. You have personal and professional aspects to your life. When you're checking on your priorities before saying yes or no to people's requests or choosing to invest your resources to people, you're checking on what is a priority to your health as the leader, to your priorities, let's say with your family, to what would be best for your team. Let's say you're being requested by another department, or you're being requested by the C-suite, maybe on the C-suite, and you're being requested by the board to engage in something. So you first check on not just your personal priorities, you're also going to check on the priorities of those who are under your leadership influence, because just in case they're also either going to be involved in this thing that you're being asked to say yes to, or they're going to be impacted by you saying yes to something because you're people pleasing. When you run your priorities and their priorities, it reminds you yet again, wait a second. If I deviate to this direction, if I divert these resources to that use, then we're going to go without in this area. And it's something that I cannot allow to happen. Then you're also going to look at schedules. There are times you just physically cannot fit things in. Your schedule just will not allow. You do not have enough hours in a day, a week, a month for you to do that. And I know that when the people pleasing bug comes around, it can convince you that, wait a second, but there's this 1 hour here. Maybe you can squeeze it in here. There is a concept called margin. Rather than pack our schedules, it is prudent to give yourself margin. Margin between commitments, between appointments, margin to transition, either physically transition from one place to another, margin to transition between one meeting, maybe in your mind, collecting your thoughts and creating new ones for the next one. Margin to even rest, just have downtime for yourself before you do something else. And this margin as well, as you're thinking as a 360 leader, you're going to want to create margin for your family. Maybe you've gone from event to event in the pursuit of building relationships. Maybe you've said yes to absolutely every engagement. So every Saturday and every Sunday is involved in going somewhere or hosting someone, and you're thinking we need downtime. We need to create margin in our schedules so that we can really be healthy and show up effectively for others. So when you consult your priorities and you consult your work life schedule, you then see it is not feasible for me to say yes. It is not prudent for me to agree to be part of this group. It is not going to be wise for me to take this money and divert it to that use, because then we're going to be that much further away from our financial goals. The third strategy to overcoming people pleasing is communicating kindly yet conclusively. Whenever you're asked to engage in something, or if you can tell that you're being pulled into maybe a group or a relationship, or because maybe you've done well historically, somebody wants you on the winning team, regret compassionately. No, don't just say, no, I can't do it. We are social beings. You do want to build social capital, not break it down. But you cannot afford in every way, when you consider your 360 leadership existence, that you cannot say yes to this. Regret compassionately. State briefly and generally why you cannot, unless it is a work obligation and you need to do a little bit more, let's say by your manager, by your director, by your chief executive. You need to do a little more than just say, oh, sorry, I can't make it, I regret. You can explain us on a need to know basis. You can explain, depending on the relationship and the nature of the request. You can explain why you're unable to, and do so. And then wish them well with what they're doing. And I want to add this: if appropriate, and you can afford to, and you think you know them well enough, and what you're about to do in their favor is not going to work badly for you, you can recommend resources, refer people, or offer an alternative way to support. Recommend other resources that they can tap into, other than maybe the resources they asked of you. Maybe they asked for people on your team and you cannot afford for them to be released. Maybe they asked for you personally, and you think there's somebody else who could do just as great a job, if not better. Or maybe you can offer an alternative. Maybe you can support at another time or in another way or only to a certain measure. So I cannot give you the full amount, but this is what I can budget towards it. I cannot show up this Saturday, but would you still need somebody maybe a Saturday or two away that I can make time then? I cannot do half a day, but I can definitely give you an hour. Would that be all right? In my situation where I turned down a request, I offered to make a financial contribution to the cause. And this wasn't out of guilt, but it is what I was willing and able to do toward this request. It is important that you make a decision that is grounded on the clarity of vision and values and goals and priorities, that it has run by your schedule and that of those that will be impacted by this request. But then where you're able to do something, make a decision, a favorable decision that you are both willing and able. The willing part is so important. Where you sense resistance within you, that means you're probably trampling on a non-negotiable value just to get along with others. And it'll come back to bite you either in your health, in your relationships, or in your performance. The fourth strategy to overcoming people pleasing is quiet guilt and condemnation. Upbringing, socialization, probably a lifetime of just trampling over your own healthy boundaries or observing other people's negative reactions to when you try to set limits, they'll teach you to override any wisdom that says it is not practical, it is not prudent, it will not work well for me to say yes to this request or to join that group or to be part of that initiative. So when you receive a request, pause and take a step back. If the person is live, whether physically or on the phone, you can ask for time to get back to them. If you've received an email or a text, you do not have to respond immediately. You can take time and revisit, consult back the strategies we just went through. Strategy number 1, getting clarity. Wait a second. Given my vision, given my values, given my goals, given the priorities in this season, for me, for my team, for my business, for my family, given the schedule that we're running on, would this be something that I can take on? Given the finances and what they're invested toward, or given the debt that I have, can I take on more? Should I take on more? And then be kind to yourself. Remember, as much as you can think you can take on more, I would urge you, be kind to your physical, mental, emotional health. There are times rather than saying yes, you could best spend that time taking a nap. There are times rather than putting in an extra request to just go over somebody else's work, you could spend that time reflecting on how the week went, what you did well, what could have been improved, and what strategies you have in place to do so. So it is key to pause. I actually have I have 7 goal setting practices on the personal goal setting course that takes you through 7 P's of what you do when there is a request, when there is a disruption, when there is, I would call, a distraction trying to come in to divert your attention, divert your resources to something that will not ultimately help you achieve what matters to your work life success and influence and impact and legacy. You're going to remember to always, and I have learned this, perhaps, I don't know if it's the hard way but I've learned this, especially being married and having children. I may think that I am free and that is convenient. But when I check with my husband and when I check with the children, maybe I am checking on the children's schedule all week, and it is really important for us to have downtime with them on a Saturday. Maybe I'm checking on my husband who's been busy and maybe he needs time off. And when I check with them, as much as I feel like, oh, I'm up and ready to go and meet with this family, I check on my family and they're not in a position to go somewhere. And so I'd have to decline it until we're all in a place to do that. I might think that, and especially as leaders in the workplace, we sometimes do not realize the load and how much taxing the work that people have, or the complexity they're going through, or the bureaucracies of connecting with others and actually delivering results together, that you might say, yeah, my team can take that on. And you check with your team and they're saying, look, we've got this going on. We're firefighting on this end. This department hasn't gone back to us about this issue. That client is not ready to proceed. They actually want a revision and yet another meeting. So when you look at where everybody is, when you look at their head space, their heart space, when you look at the actual workload they're dealing with, you realize, no, it would be suicide for us to take on yet another thing on the team. And so you would have to decline. So it's important not just to check with yourself, because you can even lie to yourself and tell yourself, yeah, I'm good to go. I can do it. I'll just get a Red Bull. I'll drink more coffee. Or I'll just, I'll take a quick run and I'll be good to. If you don't want to be kind to yourself, be kind to the other people who either will have to be brought into the thing that you want to do, or they will be impacted by you choosing to take it on. And then make sure that if you feel that everything looks good on my end, but everything within me is telling me, this is not the right timing for this. Consult an accountability partner. Make sure you have a support system, other people you can sound things by, who know you and your priorities well enough to advise you with wisdom what is right for you to do for now. I think this is another concept as leaders that we truly need to understand. What may be right to do right now may not be right to do even in similar situations, similar circumstances next week or next time. And so there's always room to pause, step back, and reflect on what is right to do for now. And then respond with compassion, in brevity, with recommendations where appropriate. I hope that this episode of Overcoming People Pleasing has helped you. If it has, let us know. Send us an email, send us a voice note if you'd like, on operations@modestamahiga.com. Let us know how this episode or the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast in general has impacted you. Do suggest topics you would like to hear or speak on. 360 leadership topics that cover both your work and your life realities. To access the personal goal setting course that I mentioned earlier, visit modestamahiga.com/courses. We're going to share all these links in the description to this episode. Thank you for joining me on the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast. Join me on the next episode for more insights, strategies, and lessons for 360 leadership success. Leader, remember, you can only lead others as well as you lead yourself. So steward yourself well so that you can lead others effectively. I wish you all of God's best, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.